Greetings, imagination connoisseurs. It is I, once again, the notorious RMB here. I'm sorry I haven't been here the last couple days. It's been very busy here in the land of Rob. Had a lot of work related things to do. Had a lot of movie related things to do, which is great. As many of you know, I'm working on Lucas Kendall's proof of concept short sci-fi film Skyfighter, and the great Tobias Richter is doing our visual effects, and we're almost done. The movie's, I mean, we got a few more tweaks to do on the shots, but there's like 80 or 90 VFX shots and they've all been completed almost. And there's a few tweaks to make on them. And then the final mix is basically it's a week from Monday. And it's really gratifying when you can work on a crowdfunded project that gets crowdfunded, it gets shot, I get to edit it, the special effects get done, the mix is getting done, and you finish it. What a novel concept. But it's a fantastic movie. Again, it's called Skyfighter. And what's interesting about it is Lucas Kendall, the great Lucas Kendall, who many of you might know from Film Score Monthly. He and the many soundtracks he has produced. He produced a film called Lucky Bastard, and he's wanted to direct. And he wrote a feature-length science fiction script called Skyfighter that is a fantastic manageable science fiction epic that involves two people. But in order, no, he's never directed before. So what he did was he wrote a short version of the story, which sort of, it's a great proof of concept. And he crowdfunded it and he directed it. He directed the hell out of it. There's nobody I would trust more than Lucas Kendall right now to make his first feature film. I mean, he's really knocked it out of the park, and I'm privileged to have been working on this film. Basically, right now I'm sort of post-supervising it, but I edited the film, and it's been a great working with him. And it's, one of the things that I love about movie making is collaborating with other really, really smart people. And that's what makes filmmaking so much fun, is you work with many different kinds of people that are multidisciplinary. And I've said before that working on a movie is like working with a great cross section of America, because you have all walks of life represented on a movie set, and it's terrific. And at the top of that, of course, is the director and the writer, and Lucas is both. Having a visionary like him, and his attention to detail and everything that he's put into this film has made it just elevated it, and it's been such a joy. And one of our co-stars, one of the stars of the film, Jessica Bohr, Jess, just recently, after Lucas cast her in the movie, she recently was cast as the lead in a pilot that they shot in New Zealand. And Jess is, what a talent. And it's great that Lucas and our fellow producer, Christine Sheeks, was able to find her. And the film it's a really terrific piece of work. And I can't, if you guys are like the short films that you see on Dust, this is a step above even those. And very excited for everybody to see it. I don't know what we're going to do with it once we're done, if we're going to just take it and try and sell the feature. But Lucas has done a fantastic job, and I'm kind of sad, actually, that I won't be getting the great Tobias Richter. If you liked what Tobias Richter did on Prelude to Axonar, this is different. Basically, he was creating holograms and displays. There is one great spaceship shot. We call it starship porn. There's a great bit of starship porn in this movie that's terrific, but it's a different. He was doing rotoscoping and working on the creating stuff that we're integrating into the live action photography, which is something that he didn't really do on Axonar. He was creating the spaceship shots. That was, of course, Zoe Trope, but just a lot of fun, and it's just great to have yet another piece of film that you'll be able to see. And very, very excited for you guys to see Skyfighter, and hopefully we'll be able to make an announcement that we are moving into the feature version, because I very much want to either work as a producer and certainly as the editor, because working with Lucas has been a joy. And I really love working with him. It's just, when you're making a movie, to have a true visionary that really understands all of the intricacies of production. And when they don't, they go out of their way to learn about the intricacies of production. And then they're able for me to be able to facilitate someone else's vision is one of the great joys, and that's why I love editing, and working with Lucas has been terrific. And I'm kind of bummed. I'm kind of bummed that Skyfighter is coming to an end. There's Gilbert, by the way. Gilbert, say hello, and please don't get into that bag. No. Those are action figures I brought back from the set. You cannot have that, Gilbert. You will eat the action figures that are in that bag. But so that is great. And I am sort of, as I said, bummed out that it's coming to an end. But that brings me to, what is this chat going to be about? I said Star Trek. It's kind of a bait and switch. But here's what I wanted to talk to you about when it comes to Star Trek. No, I am not going to review this week's episode of Star Trek Discovery. I can't. I already have a heart condition when I watch the show. But if I were to get into it more, I would just piss everybody off. But I do want to follow up more about what I was talking about the other day and what Midnight's Edge had followed up with about the Star Trek rights situation. Let me just say that I have heard it from a very high up, the greatest authority when it comes to these issues, that when Star Trek Discovery was originally conceived, there was no 25% different mandate when it was first happening. That was not at all a part of the original conception and the original, indeed, the original production of Star Trek Discovery. There was no 25% difference. If that number is true, and if what Midnight's Edge had reported and what we have been talking about in terms of the prime timeline canon and all that, when Discovery was originally conceived, it was originally conceived as a canonical prequel to TOS, 10 years before pre-OS. It was always supposed to be a canonical prequel. It was not taking place in this prime timeline. Now, again, I cannot confirm this part of it, but when that original team departed, the original showrunners and that team departed, and Alex Kurtzman came on board, I believe that situation changed based on what I was told. That they do, in fact, they are working within this new, whatever the rights that were carved out for Bad Robot, and whatever that new rights situation was when Star Trek 09 came out, and they did this in about 2007, because CBS had no interest in making Star Trek. I believe that there was indeed a new rights situation that had to do with merchandising and all of that, the way that Midnight's Edge has been reporting. I can't speak to whether everything they've reported is true or not, but I do believe that if you go back and watch the Midnight's Edge videos about the Star Trek rights situation, they're very interesting. They did a cut down that they also put out on YouTube that went up a couple days ago. So that I found to be very, very interesting. And I do believe that Star Trek Discovery and all the Star Trek that's being produced, whether it's Lower Decks, whether it's the animated show they're going to do for Nickelodeon, whatever that's going to be, all of that is part of this new Star Trek multiverse that is not necessarily have anything to do with canonical Star Trek, meaning the original series from 66 through the end of Enterprise in 2005. That is one Star Trek universe. The Star Trek that we're getting now is not canonical to that original universe, which, by the way, would make it an easier pill to swallow, at least for me. I mean, it's funny. I get personal when I'm critical of Star Trek Discovery. It's the only time I really get personally attacked on the internet, which I find really interesting, because people, I don't think that look, I blame the writing staff and the producing staff, but mostly the writing. The last episode of Star Trek Discovery, I literally, it was kind of like being at the end of The Fury. You ever see the movie The Fury, where, Amy Irving has her psychic powers, and I felt like John Cassavetes in the grips of her psychic power, and then I was going to explode and your head spins off. It's great. You watch John Cassavetes blow up. Spoiler alert. If you've never seen The Fury, first of all, you should. It's a Brian De Palma movie. Second of all, it's got an incredible, incredible John Williams score, but it's also got John Cassavetes blowing up from like 100 different angles at the end. It's great. But I felt like John Cassavetes watching Discovery this week, trying to make sense of all of it. I mean, wow, Section 31 is basically, if you join Section 31 in Discovery, it's just like getting a black MasterCard. apparently like, hey, look at my Section 31 credentials. And apparently everyone knows about it, which doesn't make that's not cool. But anyway, so that's all I want to talk about when it comes to Star Trek. I can't review Star Trek Discovery. And God bless all of you out there that love Star Trek Discovery. I do not. I am the gatekeeper, after all, of verisimilitude, as I was called the other day in a chat, which, by the way, God love you for that. I am the gatekeeper of verisimilitude. I am not a gatekeeper of anything else. If you guys love what you love and you want to watch Star Trek Discovery, God love you, watch Star Trek Discovery. I hope it leads you to the rest of the Star Trek shows. And all of the Star Trek shows have great episodes and not so great episodes. I would say the original series, about 75% of it's good to great. Next Generation, I'd say about 50% is good to great. Deep Space Nine, maybe a little bit more. 60% is good to great. But I do think the 6th season of Deep Space Nine is the strongest season of modern Star Trek that we've ever seen, in terms of every episode pretty much being a home run. But yeah, so anyway, God love y'all if you love Star Trek Discovery. I do not begrudge you that. I just hope you read a lot more books and watch a lot more great television, because there's a lot more great television out there. But what I did want to talk about, because I couldn't talk about it yesterday because I wasn't on, was, as many of you might have heard, Samsung, which is one of the largest electronic hardware makers in the world of various things from phones to TVs, has announced that they are discontinuing the production of 4K HD, Blu-ray discs. They're no longer going to support that physical format. Now, that to me is terrifying. It scares me to death because, as I've talked about on this show before, if you can't get hardware, you can't play your software, which is like distressing. And I've got a garage full of hard drives and equipment and the computer equipment. Some of it's less than 10 years old that is no good anymore. And it's terrifying. It's terrifying to think that my physical media, probably I might outlive my ability to play my physical media. I guess there'll always be some place that will be servicing these devices, but Samsung is a huge retailer and it's a huge manufacturer of players. And for them to be getting out of this is the second electronics firm that has gotten out of producing 4K players. The first being Oppo. And I love Oppo. I love their hardware. They famously gave a hardware update for their 4K players. Oppo was terrific. I had a multi-region Oppo player that a Blu-ray player. It died. The laser died in it. I suppose I could replace the laser, but it served me well. It was a multi-region player. I loved it dearly. The player I'm running now is it's a Sony multi-region player. It's a great player, but it looks like it costs 50 cents. I mean, my Oppo player you could pick it up and smash someone in the face and it would still play discs. But to have Oppo and now Samsung drop the production of 4K players, pretty shocking. And it is a portent of things to come. Physical media, folks, is dead. However, I do think that physical media will stay around for a long time because we've got incredible companies, whether it's Indicator, whether it's Criterion, whether it's Shout, whether it's Arrow, whether it's Twilight Time, there's so many great firms that are producing incredible special editions. I mean, the Waterworld special edition that Arrow put out, 3 different versions of the film. Daniel Griffith did his Ballyhoo films. It was a labor of love for him doing almost a feature-length documentary on the making of Waterworld. And of course, I finally got a shipping notice that my Prince of Darkness 4K disc was shipped, which, whenever those things went on sale, I didn't even think that they were doing Prince. I didn't realize that. It's weird because they put out a Blu-ray version of this, which they didn't do for the others. But if you're a John Carpenter fan and you did not pick up the 4-disc collector's editions of The Fog, Escape from New York, They Live, and Prince of Darkness, have no fear, because Studio Canal is putting all of those movies out. They're putting the 4K Carpenter discs out as movie-only versions in March. So if you have a 4K player and you're still a fan of physical media the way I am, and you're a John Carpenter fan, I cannot recommend highly enough that you pick up Prince of Darkness, The Fog, Escape from New York, and they live because they look spectacular. Now, of course, there's going to be, you grain pirates or whatever Bill Hunt calls you, pixel pushers, pixel pushers. If a movie was made in 1980 on a low budget, or was made in 79 and came out in 1980 on a low budget, and certain dark scenes are grainy, lower, the exposure was lower, and they don't look like a Pixar movie on home video, that doesn't mean the transfer is bad. That's just what the medium of film is. So a lot of people are always complaining, like, oh my God, you can't, why doesn't this look like the latest Pixar release? Because, well, it's not computer generated. So it looks, I personally love, you watch Close Encounters, or you watch Ghostbusters, when they get to effect sequences, because some of those, back in the day, they were optically printed. Some effect sequences look grainier than others. To me, that's the joy of the medium. And I love that. I love seeing that stuff. Really makes me feel good. But a lot of people, they're not into it. I get it. I understand, especially younger people. Photochemical. I know you guys don't do photochemical. But hey, these John Carpenter discs, get them, love them. They are, in fact, terrific. So can't recommend those highly enough. But it's very, very unfortunate. I do think physical media is going to last a long time. It's always going to be a niche market. And as long as these companies keep adding special features like the way Arrow does, and the way Shout Factory does, there's always going to be people that are buying them. But I think that physical media, it's still making $1 billion a year or whatever. But it used to be they were losing 10% of the market share every year. I'm sure it's much, much more precipitous, that drop off now, because, and look, even I've got two versions of Infinity War. I've got a 4K version and a 3D version, but it's on Netflix. If I'm in bed and I just want to watch, Ebony Maw talk about Thanos, whatever, I'll flick on Netflix and be like, hey, I don't even have to get out of bed. I get it. I understand. Eventually, we're all going to go streaming. But the problem is, the thing that worries me is that all these movies that I would want to watch, whether it's low budget slasher movies from the 80s or some obscure science fiction movie like Wavelength, just because Tangerine Dream did the score for Wavelength. How many of you have you seen Wavelength? I don't even remember the last time I saw Wavelength. I don't own it, but Wavelength, it's a pretty weird movie. If you haven't ever seen it, but it's got a Tangerine Dream score. So there you go. From the 80s, Wavelength. I can't even recommend it because I don't remember if it's good or not. But something like Without Warning with this Aliens discs with Martin Landau. Check that out. What if we can't see that anymore? Because who's clamoring for that? I know it's coming out on disc, or my beautiful UK version of Extro. How many of you have watched that crazy, weird, sort of alien-esque ripoff that came out in the wake of Alien? If you want to see a truly strange evil alien movie, watch Extro, XTRO. Beautiful version of that came out on video. Check it out. It's pretty weird. But so Samsung has discontinued 4K players. How many people are going to still make 4K players? I don't know. How long can I collect discs for? I don't know. How long are they going to continue to make discs? Hopefully for a while, but it's strange. Bill Hunt seems to be convinced over the digital bits. And by the way, you should always read the digital bits every day. Seems to be convinced that physical media will stick around for a while. But as he pointed out, there was like 3 new players being introduced at the CES show, at the Consumer Electronics Show, like 3 or 4 or something. That's the future, folks. If there's only 3 players being manufactured next year, I don't know how much longer we have left. I really don't. It scares me. It scares me because look, I don't have like Drew McWeeny and Bill Hunt. They got like 20,000 discs. I don't have that many discs. I don't get the free discs all the time. I get a lot of free discs, but I don't get free discs all the time. So yeah, it's tough. It's rough. It's something else to worry about between climate change and all the other craziness in the world. I'm up at night that my 4K player is never going to work again, and I'm going to be relegated just to streaming, and I'll have to have 100,000 streaming services just to see the movies I want. Or I can start ripping all my discs and onto a server, which would be like having my own Netflix. I could sit in bed and just click on whatever movies I want to see, which I'll probably end up doing. But then how long is that drive going to last? What if it fails? These are the things. These are my first world problems, people. These are big problems to have. Big problems to have. Kind of like, Star Trek. I'm getting Star Trek every week, and it gives me heartburn. It's tough. It's tough out there. However, uh, other things, The Wandering Earth, the Chinese science fiction film, the epic science fiction film, The Wandering Earth. Have I seen it? No. It's becoming my new Into the Spider-Verse. I keep talking about it, but I haven't seen it yet. I'm gonna go see it. It's open at other theaters. I have not seen Alita Battle Angel. I think I'm gonna have to go there's places, IMAX 3D places that are showing both Alita Battle Angel and The Wandering Earth in the same auditorium. I might have to pay twice, but I'm going to go this weekend, either today or tomorrow. I mean, there's two epic science fiction films in the theaters right now, and I haven't seen them. What is wrong with me? Well, I had to do work. So anyway, in addition to being stressed out about the lack of 4K material in the world, it's very frustrating. But all good things come to an end, right? Entropy will eventually snuff out the universe, and perhaps there's more things to worry about. I mean, somebody needs to start, like, there's Shudder. Somebody needs to start like a streaming service that's only horror and sci-fi. But then again, studios own different things. I mean, I'd love to see like Vinegar Syndrome start their own Criterion channel and put out all this crazy, wacky stuff. That's what I would hope for. But then, it's all craziness. But that's how is The Wandering Earth? Somebody asked. Deadpool super chat question right there. I have not. I'm dying. I can't believe I haven't seen The Wandering Earth. For those of you who don't know what The Wandering Earth is, I should probably biggest movie in China right now. It's an epic, brand new Chinese science fiction thriller, modern day. And what's so interesting about that is the Chinese market has traditionally not made a lot of big budget, modern science fiction thrillers like this. And the premise of The Wandering Earth is our sun is expanding into a red giant, and it's literally going to engulf half the solar system, Earth being one of the planets that will be engulfed. And I guess, from what I understand, the nations of the world band together, this is my favorite part, to build giant engines to move the Earth. And in 2,500 years, they're going to be able to move the Earth to Proxima Centauri. And everybody has to move underground because the Earth will be frozen, of course, and the ecosystem will die. I don't know how it's all going to work, and it sounds pretty outlandish. But there was a 1966 Japanese, I think it's 66, Japanese film called Gorath, where they have to move the Earth and they build giant engines. So I love the fact that now there's two Asian science fiction thrillers that are about building engines on the Earth to move the planet. And this is why I love Asian science fiction so much, because there is a whimsy to how they think of machinery, and everything is anthropomorphized, and that's why the Japanese robots are going to rule the world one day. I just love the idea that they come up with these outlandish things. And you might say, as the gatekeeper of verisimilitude, putting an engine on the Earth is pretty silly. And indeed it is. But just because I'm a gatekeeper of verisimilitude does not mean I am not a lover of whimsy. And Godzilla, there's an element of whimsy there. Anything that Leiji Matsumoto does, whether it's Galaxy Express, as I've talked about before, putting a battleship in space, element of whimsy there. Galaxy Express, a train, like a steam train in space. Americans wouldn't do this. This is something that only the Asian market really does well, because they have a certain sense of whimsy that we here in the West can't get our heads around. That's why I don't think there's ever going to be an American adaptation of Space Battleship Yamato, or as you know, it's Star Blazers. But anyway, The Wandering Earth, can't wait to see it. Hope you guys all see it. I hope if it's playing around you, I mean, I think it's crazy that there's been I've seen no advertising at all, like zero. I've seen the Chinese trailer and Gilbert certainly hasn't, but it's playing in theaters and people are going to see it, I guess. So I'm really excited that The Wandering Earth is in a theater. If you get to go see it, report back. Tell me what you think. If it's playing in your neighborhood, go see it. Support the fact that there are theaters playing an IMAX 3D version of an epic Chinese science fiction film that has no marketing here in the United States. I live for this stuff. God love those people. I think it's so awesome that The Wandering Earth is in a movie theater right now. Well, anyway, that's it. I mean, I really don't have that much to say, so I'm just going to go answer questions. It's almost like open mic today. But yeah, so check out the Midnight's Edge thing. But I did hear that the first conception of Discovery was canonical, and it changed when Alex Kurtzman came on board, or somehow something. But he was on board. I don't know. It's very interesting. I'd love to know One day the story's going to come out, and I'd love to hear it all. Gilbert would like to hear it all too. Right, buddy? Yeah, he's here. He's always here. Stubble McShave asks, hi, Stubble. Stubble McShave's great. He comes on the John Campy show a lot, and he's always chatting with us. So, Stubble, here's to you, sir. What iconic film haven't you seen that you should have? That is an excellent question. What iconic film haven't you seen that you should have? Gosh. Oh, I know. I have yet to see The Sound of Music. It's a big bone of contention here in the house, in the Burnett Bell household. They even bought me Sound of Music, not this Christmas, but the Christmas before on Blu-ray, and I've yet to watch it. I tried watching it once. It doesn't go over well here when I don't watch it. So I've not seen The Sound of Music. And Robert Wise, the director of Star Trek The Motion Picture and the Andromeda Strain and Day the Earth Stood Still and Curse of the Cat People. I mean, co-director of West Side Story. I have not seen The Sound of Music. It's terrifying. I know. I feel bad. Brewvies with Matt. Whenever Brewvies with Matt is here, of course, I too have a sip. By the way, this is a very fine. This is called Double Dog Lager, and it looks like Ralph Steadman. Maybe he didn't. This just looks Stedman-esque, but this is a fine IPA. It's like a double IPA. It is tasty. I do love it. So that's for Brewvies with Matt. Brewvies with Matt asks, or he says, despite Samsung jumping ship from 4K production, studios continue to bring new content. Your friend, the Digital Bitch, just announced Apocalypse Now. Oh my God. Really? Okay, this is the greatest news I've heard. Apocalypse Now in 4K. Oh man, you know what that means? Zoetrope, that means The Godfather. Godfather, Conversation, Outsiders, Rumblefish. Wow, Apocalypse Now in 4K. That is very exciting. Look, 4K is a fantastic format with HDR and Dolby Vision. Incredible. It looks incredible. It really does. And I used to think, oh, you can't really see in 4K. That's the limits of the human eye. But man, when you watch a disc with HDR or Dolby Vision, it looks incredible. Apocalypse Now coming out in 4K. That, you know what? As I talked about before, Dawn of the Dead coming out in 4K and Apocalypse Now coming out in 4K. That is the shiznit. I am very, very excited. Brewvies, let's have another sip to you, sir. Fantastic. That is great news. Willow Yang is here from Canada. And I discovered that Yang means willow in Chinese. So her name is actually Willow, which I think is fantastic. She's here. She says, happy weekend, Rob. Hope that you enjoyed Lulang Di Kui, aka The Wandering Earth. I have not. China's so proud of the film. It's considered unpatriotic if you don't go see it. The premise sounds bonkers. Well, you know what? I'm a big fan. As anyone who loves The Martian the way I do, everyone knows that the Chinese will end up saving everyone. If you guys love great science fiction, there is a series. It's called Chung Kuo. The series is Chung Kuo. And it was written like, I want to say 20 years ago. I don't even remember who wrote it, but it's basically about a future when China basically runs the world, not unlike the future as depicted in Firefly. I only read the first Chung Kuo book, but it was really interesting. I really liked it a lot. So yes, I'm going to go see The Wandering Earth, and I'm going to see it either today or tomorrow. Brandon says, hey man, do you have a P.O. box? I'd like to send you some of my artwork that I think you would love. Also, what's your opinion on Zack Snyder? Well, Brandon, you could send it to me via email if you could scan it. I don't want to take your artwork from you. But I'd love to see your artwork. I love it when people either send me artwork or, you can find me. You can find me on my website at theburnettwork.net, or you can email me at rmburnett17. If you want to email me, rmburnett1701 at gmail.com. That's rmburnett1701 at gmail.com. Send me anything. And as far as Zack Snyder goes, here's the thing. I was adamantly against anyone remaking Dawn of the Dead. I was so poised. I've said this before on the show. I was so poised to hate Zack Snyder's remake of Dawn of the Dead. I mean, I literally went in there with a carving knife, because I was going to tear up the screen because I was so angry that somebody remade one of my favorite films of all time, which is probably, you all know how excited I am that the UK's Second Sight is putting out Dawn of the Dead in 4K, and they got access to the original elements because Richard Rubenstein finally pulled his head out of his ass in the wake of George Romero's death, and we're going to get the definitive version of Dawn of the Dead made from the original camera elements, or camera negative, I hope, the cut negative, but interpositive, whatever they have, I don't know, but it's great. But anyway, so I went in to see Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead, ready to hate it. Of course, famously written by James Gunn. I loved it. I came out of the theater, I'm like, wow, I didn't hate this movie. I like the director's cut. So I was a Zack Snyder fan. I thought he did a great job with 300. Terrific adaptation. I mean, it's more a translation than an adaptation. Not so hot on Watchmen. While it was nice to see certain scenes brought to life, I thought Watchmen was it was a translation again and not an adaptation. And Watchmen's one of my favorite comic stories. I know it seems cliche to see it or to say it now, but I read that shit when it was first being released and I loved it so much. I really love Man of Steel. A lot of people are like, meh. I love Man of Steel. I see it as a science fiction first contact story. And from that perspective, I think it's fantastic. I love it. And I have said that the ultimate version of Batman v Superman, while, it tries to cram stuff too much into the movie and it rips off, it just liberally steals from The Dark Knight Returns, which I think is needless. And there's a lot going on. There's something about the feel of that movie. It's not a great movie. It's deeply flawed, but it has the painterly quality that he brings to, he's kind of like the dark painterly Alex Ross, and he steals a lot from Alex Ross's imagery. But that movie casts a spell. Whether you like Batman v Superman or not, it's undeniable that Zack Snyder's imprint is all over that film. And there's something about it. There is an epic, mythic quality to the way he does present Batman and Superman. And I really like that. I hated Sucker Punch. Although I have the hot toys from Sucker Punch, but it's like, why? I didn't buy them. They were given to me. I'm like, all right, what do I want? A baby doll girl. I don't know. But so I don't dislike Zack Snyder. And I was really excited actually to see Justice League. I've wanted to see a Justice League movie my whole life. Obviously that didn't turn out so well, but I'm not one of these release the Snyder cut people at all. But if you can release the Snyder cut, because I would love to see what that felt like. Because if it had the feel, there's a lot in Justice League to like. I just think it doesn't stand the test of viewership, I guess. Josh Crichton, thank you for the super chat, Josh. When are you going to announce your interested candidacy as a potential replacement director for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 for 3 from James Gunn? I highly recommend you think about it. Well, here's the thing, guys. And then, Josh, I really appreciate your vote of confidence. As Clint Eastwood said in one of the Dirty Harry movies, a man's got to know his limitations. And my limitation is I directed one movie literally 20 years ago, and it made no money. People love it. It's considered a geek classic, I guess, but you can't even get it in 4K or on Blu-ray or in HD. And the streaming versions of it were versions that were made in 1999, and they're pan and scan. But hopefully, with the 20th anniversary of Free Enterprise coming up, I will be able to get that back out to you. And I know that Kevin Feige is a fan of Free Enterprise. But the fact is, unfortunately, my career has not been such where anyone would trust me with the budget of a $150 million movie to direct. In fact, I'll be lucky to get a $5 million budget for my second feature, which will be like my first feature because it's been so long since I've directed a feature. I think, by the way, I could knock it out of the park, frankly. But no one's going to hire me. I would love to make Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I'd love to work with James Gunn. I'm a huge fan of James Gunn. I was lucky to meet James Gunn on a movie I worked on. I'm an associate producer of it, but it's a superhero film called The Specials that was produced by, at the time, my company, Mindfire Entertainment, that I founded. Mindfire Entertainment made a number of films. I left after The Specials was made, but Craig Mazin, who wrote the Hangover movies, he directed The Specials that James Gunn wrote, and James Gunn is actually in The Specials playing a character called Minute Man. And if you like, Specials is like Mystery Man. It's got an incredible cast. Thomas Hayden Church is in it. Rob Lowe is in it. Paget Brewster's in it. It's an incredible cast that he wrote. James Gunn is in it, and I think you guys would like it. But I don't think, and I appreciate the vote of confidence, Josh, but I don't think, even if I was Kevin Feige, I wouldn't hire me, even though I would knock it out of the park and I do a great job. But I appreciate that. I can't announce my candidacy. Oh, there goes Gilbert, coming and going. I talked about the Wandering Earth. I can't read your name. I'll just call you Deadpool. But thank you for that super chat question. I appreciate it. Let's see. You guys, this is great. Mark C is here, and Mark C asks, I'm a fan of late 70s and early 80s schlock science fiction. What are your thoughts on the sci-fi western Oblivion and its sequel? Reminds me of the animated show Adventures of the Galaxy Rangers. I'll tell you a funny story about Oblivion. So I assume you're talking about the movie with George Takei. It's about cowboys and aliens. I believe Peter David wrote Oblivion. Peter David wrote it. Now, I worked at Full Moon Entertainment while Oblivion was being made, if you're speaking about the same. And I met Mark Altman, who I later went on to make Free Enterprise with, and who I currently do the Inglorious Treksperts podcast with. He had a magazine called Sci-Fi Universe that was published in the 80s. And that was 80s. It was published in the mid 90s, I'm sorry, which I was later the critic at large for. But Sci-Fi Universe co-sponsored a screening of Oblivion with Full Moon at the 1994 San Diego Comic-Con. And that's where I met Mark Altman and many of his crew and people that I'm still working with even today and friends with even today. So I like Oblivion. I thought Oblivion was pretty cool. I like, both of them, and I'm a big fan of Full Moon movies. I got my first feature editing credit on the Full Moon movie Arcade, which was made in 93. It was made earlier, but we recut it in 93. I'm considered an additional editor, which is unfortunate because Peter Billingsley and I recut that movie from scratch, and the original editor, credited editor, Miles Winton, is the name of the original editor's dog. So that's kind of a bummer. Anyway, Topher Rocks says, yo, Rob, love and respect your film knowledge. I think you and Tarantino could talk filmmaking for days. It's true. 20 years ago, when I was at the Hawaii International Film Festival showing Free Enterprise, Quentin Tarantino sat down right in front of me to watch the movie. And it was nerve-wracking, but at the party afterwards, he cornered me for about an hour, and he remembered every line of dialogue William Shatner spoke in the movie. He'd seen it once, and he remembered everything, and I had a rollicking conversation with him. It was not the first time I met him. The first time I actually met him was at a Dario Argento film festival at Raleigh Studios, and he didn't have a ticket, and I gave him a ticket to get into one of the movies, and I just sat and ate French fries outside. Mark C says, have you ever seen The Last Chase with Lee Majors, Chris Makepeace, and Burgess Meredith? Yes, I did. I saw The Last Chase in the movie theater when it came out. I don't remember what year. It had been like 81, maybe. The Last Chase. That's another one. I always think of The Last Chase, even as it has nothing to do with this movie. But I don't know why. Whenever I think of The Last Chase or this Mark Hamill film that he made right after Star Wars called Corvette Summer. If you've never seen Corvette Summer, it's got Annie Potts and Mark Hamill, and I love that movie. I haven't seen it in ages. But the lead of Laser Blast, this is the villain in Corvette Summer. I always think of Corvette Summer and The Last Chase because they were like always on cable together. But yes, The Last Chase, you got to see The Last Chase. That's it's kind of fun. So I'm going to start looking at going back up the top and seeing, Stubble McShave, you're here again. Josh Brolin and Momoa in Dune, and Piter isn't cast yet. Oh man, I don't know if you people are following the casting of the new Dune, Denis Villeneuve's Dune, but man, they cast Jason Momoa as Duncan Idaho. Duncan Idaho is in, of course, all 6 of Frank Herbert's original Dune novels. Unbelievable. And Josh Brolin is Gurney Halleck. This cast, Piter de Vries has not been cast yet. Brad Dourif famously played Piter in the Mentat, Piter de Vries. Dr. Huey hasn't been cast, the traitorous Dr. Huey. And, I don't think I don't think there's been a better cast science fiction movie ever. in the history of mankind, other than this movie, which leads me to believe the material must absolutely be incredible. I can't wait. I can't believe who they've got to be in this movie. It is amazing. So yeah, I'm gonna go up and see what else you guys have to say. Rob Irvine says, with all of this justice for Han talk, I cannot believe you would join forces with the dastardly one, Andrew Guy. What are you talking about? He's fantastic. He's a marvel. He's like the Terminator, but he's all human, and he's going to win all the belts. He's going straight to the top. And for more of that, you'll have to tune in for future. I'm just not going to say anything. Just see what the future has in store. Andrew Guy is the man, and I'm just the man to take him to the top. Vesna's here. She says, hello, Robert, and everybody in our singularity. For those of you who are new here, you're all part of this community, the post-geek singularity. Good to have you here. Glad to hear that those movies are going fine. What is your reaction to the Academy backing off again? You know what? I love the fact that they're going to now air all of the Academy Awards live the way they should have. What they did, the most moronic thing I've ever heard in the world is that whether they were going to pre-tape them during a commercial break or not, to take away the editorial Academy Award and the Cinematography Academy Award from the live broadcast is it's one of the dumbest things that I've ever heard in my life. So stupid. And it's the third strike against the idiots at the Academy. I wish I had the graphic that John Campea put up on his show of the clown car of idiots at the Academy. I mean, what brain trust came up with that? I don't know, but boy, I love the fact that they had to come back, and they had to, of course, they had to put the cinematography and the editorial credit the award back. I mean, good on them. Nerf Herder 21 says, hi, Rob. What are all the toys and concept art leaks for Avengers Endgame with what we think are the quantum realms? Wait, hang on. Hi, Nerf Herder 21 says, hi, Rob. What if all the toys and concept art leaks for Avengers Endgame with what we think are the quantum realm suits are actually made up to get us to come up with theories, but not in the film? Man, I think, one of the internet's favorite pastimes is coming up with Avengers Endgame theories. I've read some that are interesting. I think they're just toys. And by the way, they might not be in the movie. They could have been early concept art because they have to make these toys. They have to design them, but way out. But I don't think anybody's making product to foster theories about Avengers Endgame because the internet's doing that on its own. But they're interesting. I eat that shit up. I watch all those videos about theories about Avengers Endgame. I do. I can't wait. As anyone who's watched me on Campy or on this show knows, I am deliriously excited for Avengers Endgame. I cannot wait. I mean, if I could, I'd probably watch Infinity War every day until its release date. And I just heard that I might be going to the premiere of Captain Marvel. I can't wait for that. So, yeah. King of Scotland says, we want your Discovery review, Rob. It's cathartic for all us Star Trek fans who are pulling out our hair by being told by the media we're all crazy. You know what? I think the media is gaslighting the world about Star Trek Discovery. Look, I get it. But here's the thing. It doesn't make it a good show with all the inclusion and everything that's happening. I can't watch. It's completely in the realm of magic fantasy. It's just, anyway. You know what? Maybe I will review it. I have to watch I don't like to review Discovery episodes unless I watch them, I hate to say it, 2 or 3 times, so I really can formulate an honest opinion. I was so angry watching the last episode of Discovery that my vision clouded and I had a bit of an epileptic seizure and they had to take me to the hospital. No, I'm kidding. That didn't really happen. But I felt like it was going to. Sunil S. says, Samsung did not want to accept Dolby Vision, and now they're paying for it. They've been losing market share for years on their TVs and now losing the premium market to Sony and LG. Sunil, I think you're absolutely right about that. Absolutely right. It's kind of like for those of you who weren't alive back in the 80s, in the early days of the video format wars, there was VHS and Beta. And famously, Matsushita owned the VHS license. They basically created VHS, and Sony had created Beta. Now, Matsushita licensed out VHS VHS technology. Your grandmother could get a license to manufacture VHS players if she wanted one. And and with her wheels, she would be wagging. But Sony was very stingy about licensing out, like Sanyo licensed out beta technology. So beta never really caught on because it wasn't nearly as ubiquitous as VHS. So beta lost the format war and quickly went by the wayside, which is unfortunate because beta was actually a better format. Picture quality was better. Special features like slow-mo were better on beta. Super beta was really good. It was still all NTSC, but VHS was always garbage. That's why people are like collecting VHS. I'm like, man, I couldn't get rid of it. I got rid of all my VHS tapes in 1985, and I had thousands of movies on VHS. I got rid of them all because I hated VHS. I went Laserdisc only in 85, which reminds me of Michael Choate a article, my questions. Welcome back, Rob, says Tom Bateman. Are you going to see Gundam narrative screening on Tuesday? You know what? I've thought about that. I'm a huge Gundam fan. There's a lot of new Gundam. Maybe. Bill Hunt's here. He says, hey, Star Trek and physical media. I believe we talked about this on an upcoming Inglorious Trexperts. We did. Bill Hunt is a guest on an upcoming episode of Inglorious Trexperts where we talked about physical media. If you guys haven't been listening to Inglorious Trexperts, it's Mark Altman and Darren Dockerman's podcasts. They are the Inglorious Trexperts, and they have people like myself as recurring guest stars, and we have other interesting guests like Bill Hunt come on the show. We recently had Mike Sussman on, and we had Walter Koenig himself helping kick off our one-year celebration of Star Trek the Motion Picture. This is the 40th anniversary year of Star Trek the Motion Picture. But check out Inglorious Trexperts. It's a very inglorious podcast, and you can get it wherever podcasts you get your podcast from. But to Sunil's point, yes, because here's the thing: when companies like Dolby Vision have Dolby Vision, when they create it, you have to license out all Blu-ray technology. You have to pay a licensing fee. Like when I was producing, believe it or not, the Blu-rays for Prelude to Axanar, that was more work that I guess I didn't do. But when I was producing the Blu-rays for Prelude to Axanar, we had to pay a licensing fee. It was not expensive, but we had to pay a licensing fee in order to make Blu-rays because that is owned by somebody. So a company like Samsung would have to pay a licensing fee for Dolby Vision, which can be expensive when you're making products for the worldwide market. But to not do that was a mistake. LG, as far as I understand, is the only company that's actually making 4K displays now. So it's too bad. I think LG gives. I don't know if Sony makes their own displays. Maybe they do. I'm not sure. Pre-live teaser says Section 31 have communicator badges. Dumbest shit ever. I mean, what brain trust are they paying attention? Did they not watch any Deep Space Nine episodes with Sloan? Did they not even understand what Section 31 is? Did they not read the Section 31 novels that are out? It's really maddening. You watch like, here's our comm badge. Hey, I'm part of Section 31. I mean, unbelievable. And people think that's good. Ugh, terrible. King of Scotland says, in DS9, a fleet admiral during the largest war in Federation history barely knew Section 31 existed. Right. Section 31 doesn't exist. That's the whole point. Sunil S. says, Samsung 4K players were the worst in the market while being the most expensive. This and the lack of Dolby Vision is why Samsung failed. Oh, I already read that. Thought that was a new one. Let's see. The Blue Corner says, I fear the day there's no way around going digital. I'll miss out on a ton of movies due to region coding. Yeah, I know. That sucks, right? Not only that, streaming right now is not nearly as good. I mean, it's pretty good, but it's not nearly as good as watching pieces of physical media on a nice system. Crixus Maximus says, ahoy, me hearties. Yo-ho. A pirate's life for you. Thanks for being here. Part of the post-geek singularity. Bill Hunt says, when it comes to pixels, it ain't just about the count, it's about the quality. Absolutely. It's not the size of the ship, it's the motion of the ocean, right? Anyway, Garen Gilham says, Rob, why do you think that CBS is putting so much faith into Kurtzman? He hasn't had a stellar record with the past franchises that he's worked on. Will CBS ever wake up? You know what? When you're in the club, you're in the club, and he's being backed clearly by some powerful people. And I don't know. I hope springs eternal. Hopefully they can make something good. I don't know. Donnie Pearson says, hello, everyone from downtown Seattle. Hello, Rob. I am watching Disney Channel's newest original movie. Oh, man. I was just reading that, and I don't wait, we're just Disney Channel's newest original movie, the live action adaptation of Kim Possible. It looked pretty cool. I want to see that. By the way, if you're in Seattle, have you gone underneath? Have you gone into the new tunnel? You know, I'm from Seattle, and they built a new. They got rid of the Alaskan Way Viaduct and built this tunnel. I want to go through the tunnel. I haven't been through the tunnel yet. Ralph Bennett says, I started as a film photographer. I started as a film photographer, made switch to digital photography in the 2000s. Yeah, I know, right? Why would you go back? I wouldn't go back. Josh Crichton says, I got my Black Widow Avengers Infinity War figure for my grandma. It's still in the box, though. Yeah, but how great is it? How great do Hot Toys figures smell? Don't they smell good? I love that. People are like, wow, you smell your toys? Look, if you have Hot Toys figures, you know it's that great smell of artificial plastics and the printing they have on the box. It just is a heady brew. It swirls together. It's amazing. Progressive Psyche says, this is the future, live streaming direct into your home. It's true. I know. And I'm a futurist. I believe in the future. But anyway, I still like movies. By the way, I watched the first episode of Doom Patrol and working my way through the first series of The Umbrella Academy. Yeah, I'm going to do that too after I watch Wandering Earth. How is it? What do you think? Ralph Bennett says, there was a richness and color range to film that digital does not have. Yeah, but that's not so true anymore. Not so true anymore. Donnie Pearson says 2 weeks more till the debut of Power Rangers Beast Morphers on Nickelodeon. Well, that's not what I'm waiting for, but I'm happy that you are. That's terrific. Get a Drobo for storage. Yes, sir. Ralph Bennett says that. I should, because that's a great idea. The Blue Corner says, I would never get to see Wandering Earth if we only had digital. It would never make it to Denmark, and I'm a big fan of Wu Jing, so I have to see it. Yeah, man. Right? Denmark, man. I love Denmark. I want to come back to Copenhagen. I have a friend that lives there. She's great. Bill Hunt says Apollo 11 is coming in IMAX 60. Yes, Apollo 11 coming in IMAX 65 millimeter documentary. For those who don't remember, this year, 1969, it's the 50th anniversary of the moon landing. By the way, if I might give a shout out, among the many things that I like to do is build flying model rockets. And there is a company I love to give a shout out, but Sirius Rocketry, and Sirius is spelled S-I-R, not S-E-R, not like the word Sirius, Sirius like the star. I cannot recommend highly enough to go to Sirius Rocketry and look. They make their own kits, but they make a 5-foot tall flying model rocket of a Saturn V, which I tried building mine. Like, I bought it in 2008. I tried building it 2 years ago. I fucked it up. And Dennis, I think it's Dennis. Is it Dennis? I don't know why I think it's Dennis. Write him and tell him he's a great guy. But he sent me out of the blue. He contacted me and said he watches these podcasts, and he actually sent me a box with all the parts I need to finish the engine mount, because I want to finish my 5-foot flying model rocket. And I'm going to go with Bill Hunt. We're going to take his telescope into the desert and go fly my 5-foot Sirius flying model rocket of the Saturn V, because it's awesome, and you need to get an FAA waiver to fly it because it's so big and it goes so far. Danzig's 1979 says, apparently Batman 89 is receiving a 4K treatment. How cool would it be if this gets a re-release in the cinema in June? Well, for those of you who also might not remember, this year marks the 30th anniversary of Tim Burton's Batman. By the way, I saw the world premiere of Batman in Westwood. I sat in Jack Nicholson's aisle. I have a very funny picture with me and Zach Morris Hair from Saved by the Bell holding up my ticket to the world premiere of Batman, which was awesome. It was awesome to be there. Fred Hensley says, Asian communist sci-fi. Don't worry, comrade. Government will take care of you. Not. Well, apparently they're going to take care of this. Hey, you know what? The Chinese government might be communists, but if they're going out into space, more power to them. and apparently they save the world in the Wandering Earth, which is good. The Exalted says, you're the best, Rob. Well, I appreciate that. All of you Star Trek Discovery fans probably don't think so, but I'm glad you do, sir. Thanks. Vesna says, I have a question. If all those Blu-ray players stop, she's saying if all those Blu-ray players stop, What about those CDs with extended versions of movies we love and the director's commentaries? They're not going to be in digital streaming. I know. It scares the heck out of me to think that some of my great physical media, such as many of the things I produce special features for, like the Lord of the Rings movies, would not be available anymore. And I don't understand. Like, here's the thing you should write your congressman about. We did hundreds of hours worth of interviews with the cast and crew of Lord of the Rings. I did one interview that lasted 5 hours with Christopher Lee in London, but the finished discs have maybe 10 minutes of that interview. In the 10 hours, you get 10 minutes of it. They should put up the raw interviews of the entire cast and crew of Lord of the Rings and sell a subscription, because it would be great. It would be terrific if they did that. I've always thought they should do that. Like, I've still got a lot of tapes of all my X-Men interviews and stuff like that. That'd be awesome, wouldn't it? The Exalted says, movies you're looking forward to next year. Well, I'm looking forward to Avengers Endgame. I'm looking forward to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Quentin Tarantino's new movie. I'm looking forward to Episode 9, all the normal ones. Crixus Maximus say, imagine, if you will, Shatner as Kirk doing Picard's closing argument speech from Measure of Man. I would love that. That's a great idea. That's fantastic. Writer BL Ali is here. He says, part of the lack of sales and players and media has to be due to consumers feeling duped. They bought HD TVs and then full HD came out. And as soon as they upgraded to 1080, the 4Ks came out. It's true. It's true. And, that's the companies are, they have no one but themselves to blame. And it is true. Sunil S says, colors always look too vivid on Samsung, but to each their own. That could be. I spent a long time tweaking. I've still got my Panasonic Plasma. It's my favorite TV screen I've ever owned in my life. I never thought I'd say that, because after Pioneer disappeared, which I was a complete Pioneer fanatic. They gave us a bunch of equipment for free, and we put it in free enterprise. And it made me very sad when Pioneer discontinued making their plasma screens with their black technology. But Pioneer took it over, and it was amazing. And when Pioneer discontinued making their plasmas, I was very, very sad. But I will get, one day I'm going to get around to getting probably a 4K projector at some point, but you need the room. I got to be like Bill Hunt. You should see Bill Hunt's system. It's pretty dope. Darkhawk Mark says, Rob, I just woke from my stomach flu pass out, saw you were live, and feel better now. Well, that's good. That's me making you feel better. Brad Brickley says, Lawrence of Arabia is the classic I haven't seen. I want the 4K, but no disc. Now, what the hell, man? There's no disc of Lawrence of Arabia? I mean, this is the you can't get Lawrence of Arabia in 4K, and you can't get War of the Worlds in 4K. This is terrible. But by the way, if you haven't seen Lawrence of Arabia, get on that, son. Watch that today. Writer BL Ali says, Wandering Earth equals 2001, 2012, Armageddon, Geostorm, Moon, Oblivion, and Valerian all rolled into one. Totally bonkers, yet sometimes emotional on an epic scale. Man, I'm in. You sold me. Sal the 18 says, did you ever see Bone Tomahawk with Kurt Russell? Bone Tomahawk is awesome. And you know what? If you like Westerns and horror movies, Bone Tomahawk rules. Yes, it's great. Ralph Bennett says, if you want a really good sci-fi novel, read Dorsai. I will. I have not read that. Have you seen True Detective season 3 yet? I have not seen True Detective season 3. I really want to see True Detective season 3. There's a couple of super chats that have come in, and I've missed them. Mark C says, so you'd not recommend buying a QLED 8000 series from Samsung? I can't speak to that. I think OLED screens are great, but I don't have one. So I can't recommend it. I mean, again, look, I think shopping for a screen is really important. If you're shopping for a projector or a screen, do your research. Please just don't go into some big box retailer and buy what's on sale. Find what you want. Believe me, a great screen properly calibrated will change your life. Turn off motion smoothing, all of that. Rick S says, iGen kids born in the 90s who've only seen Discovery, will they like or dislike earlier shows like TNG or Voyager? I don't know, man. I mean, I'd like to think that TNG and Voyager stand on their own. But again, that's a very interesting. So I think the real problem with Discovery is they're telling these larger stories, and they have yet to tell a satisfying in my mind, they haven't told any satisfying stories. And I think that what's great about the best episodes of Voyager and certainly the best episodes of TNG is you get a full story in an hour with a beginning, a middle, and an end, and which is fantastic. And you watch some of the best episodes of TNG, I think they stand up. Same with the original series. There's a lot of kids that they don't have the effects. They maybe can't get. They look weird. What I think is weird about Next Generation and Voyager and Deep Space Nine is they look dated, but dated from a place that never existed. If that makes any sense. But yeah, I think kids would like that stuff. I really do. Hassan Chavez, thanks for the super chat, Hassan. Love the Robcast. If you never make another movie, at least you could write books. Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna adapt my autobiography. As everyone knows, my autobiography is going to be called, unless somebody steals this title, but it's unique to me. I'm claiming it right now. The title of my autobiography is Another Nameless Director in a Shameless Act of Self-Promotion. And that was a picture that was taken of me at the 99 Cannes Film Festival. I was at a party and dove into a pool up in the hills at the chateau at a party to gain attention for the market screening of Free Enterprise at the Cannes Film Festival. Mark C. asks, can we expect a Star Trek The Motion Picture Director's Cut 40th Anniversary Blu-ray? Well, it just so happens that I happen to know, I'm very good friends with Darren Doctorman, who's an Inglorious Trexpert, and he would know because he was one of the team that spearheaded the original Director's Cut. I hope so. I actually wrote a letter here's an idea. Everybody, you should write Jim Giannopoulos. I wrote Jim Giannopoulos a letter. I don't know if he ever saw it or got it. But if Paramount indeed has to put out a Star Trek movie and they don't get to put out the new Star Trek 4 under Bad Robot, they should spend $10 million and they should restore Star Trek The Motion Picture to the director's cut and do a 4K restoration in 3D and put it out in IMAX theaters and put it out this December. They could get on it and get it done. So everybody write to Jim Giannopoulos, who's the head of Paramount, and tell them that Robert Meyer Burnett said to write him a letter, to write Jim Giannopoulos a letter, and tell him, look, for a $10 million or less investment, you could restore Star Trek The Motion Picture for its 40th anniversary, just like Warner Brothers re-released 2001 in 70 millimeter. But you'd have to make it the director's cut. That's what I think people should do. That's what I think should be done. Write Jim Giannopoulos. He's the head of Paramount. And by the way, if you write Jim Giannopoulos on the outside, make it look as official as you can and put on the bottom of the envelope, personal and confidential. But don't put stickers on it. Just make it look short and sweet. Type it out. If you've got letterhead, put the letterhead on. Make it look as official as possible, but always write personal and confidential on it so it'll get to him through the mailroom. Jim Giannopoulos. Tell him about Star Trek The Motion Picture. Tell him Paramount should do and always, by the way, always cite Warner Brothers' release of 2001 for the 50th anniversary and mention the director's cut because he doesn't know. I guarantee you he does not know that there's a Star Trek The Motion Picture director's cut that needs to be restored, but they've got to fix a few things. So I better be a consultant, Darren, because we're going to put the second viewer off back. We're going to change a little bit of the sound effects. There's a few things we're going to move. Yellow Flash says, do you think Alita Battle Angel could possibly be the greatest live action adaptation of an anime or manga? I don't know. I have not seen it yet. I'm going to go see it. I don't know if it is. I really don't. That's a very, very good question. Joe Flick says, did I ever get around to seeing the suspense mystery, The Mother Lode, in the vein of The Edge, but starring Charlton Heston playing the Twin Mountain Men, Gold Diggers, coolest movie poster as well? I have not seen that. Josh Crichton asks, thoughts on The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? One of my favorite things ever. The original radio show, I couldn't get enough of. I loved the books. The TV show was okay, and the movie kind of disappointing, but I thought it was great that Alan Rickman played Marvin, the paranoid android. Far out in the uncharted backwaters, or far out in the unfashionable end of the uncharted backwaters of the western spiral arm of the galaxy, lies a small, unregarded yellow sun. Orbiting this a distance of roughly 90 million miles is an utterly insignificant little blue-green planet whose inhabitants are so amazingly primitive that they still think digital watches are a pretty neat idea. This planet had a problem, which was this. Most of the people on it were unhappy for pretty much the time, but this was largely due to the movement of small green pieces of paper, which was odd because on the whole, it wasn't the small green pieces of paper that were unhappy. That's how much I love Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Mark C. says, fan of Robot Jocks and its sort of sequel, Crash and Burn. Totally, Those are more full moon movies. Of course, Stuart Gordon directed Robot Jox, and Gary Graham, who played Soval, who I work with on directing the Vulcan scene for Axanar, is in Robot Jox. I don't think Crash and Burn is as good, but I do like Robot Jox. Alexander Wilson says, does Dwayne have the potential to be a commercial flop? Oh, does Dwayne. Alexander Wilson asks, does Dune have the potential to be a commercial flop like Blade Runner 2049 with having the same director and high budget? I don't think so, because Denis Villeneuve is a fantastic director. I think that it's all about, look, the first Blade Runner was never a commercial success. As much as we as film fans like it, it had no footprint. Most of the people in the world today, they haven't seen Blade Runner. You people who are part of the post-geek singularity, you all love Blade Runner. I love Blade Runner, but the rest of the world was not clamoring for a Blade Runner sequel. It was never a big success in the first place. I'm just happy it got made. I think Blade Runner 2049 is a masterpiece. I think there's an argument to be made that while it's not as influential and maybe not as beautiful, I think it's perhaps a better movie than the original Blade Runner. Brandon says, do you have the DC app? Doom Patrol Pilot is great. I do not have the DC app. I've been waiting. I was thinking about waiting till Swamp Thing, but I might have to get it because I really want to see Doom Patrol. Kevin Rubio's here, and he says, long live the fighters. Yes. Can you believe that? Can you believe we're getting a Dune movie with this cast? Wow. Esabe says, the last chase, you just answered a question I've had for 30 plus years. I remember the concept and seeing it on HBO back in the day, but never knew the name. Well, that wasn't me. That was one of my members the Post Geek Singularity. See, that's what you can find out, all that crazy stuff you always were wondering about right here on this ROBServations chat, which is great. That's why I'm here. That's why I do this. I think it's fantastic to have all you guys here. And I love, you know what? I don't do open mics. I know that John Campy is doing an open mic, but, I Ripped with Rob is the closest thing that I do to open mics, and I've only done it twice. And this is great. I like all these questions. When I try and have a topic I talk about for half an hour, but this is pretty cool. Greg Smith's here. Greg Smith, by the way, if you guys don't know who Greg Smith is, he is the subject and star of the first actual episode. And the first episode of ROBServations is becoming like Free Enterprise. It's the only episode of ROBServations that I've made. No, but the Diane Duane episode, I swear to God, I'm going to drop that. I interviewed Diane Duane, the great Star Trek novelist. We had a great chat. She was in a pub in Ireland when I chatted with her. So I'm going to drop that soon. But Greg Smith, I didn't even read his question. He says, hi, Rob, no question. Just wanted to say thanks for your video chats. I'm catching up on them while working on Priscilla. Okay. Garrison Titan meeting tonight at 7 at the Roundtable Pizza in Renton near IKEA. So my friend Greg, I went to high school with him and junior high. One of the most talented dudes and one of the nicest dudes I've ever met in my life. He built a 1-to-1 scale land speeder. He joined the 501st Legion. He made a screen-accurate Boba Fett costume, which you can see on the first episode of ROBServations. And he is now building what he is affectionately called Priscilla, Queen of the Glacier. He is building a full-size Imperial probe droid from The Empire Strikes Back that he's got to get on that shit, Greg, because it's going to make its debut at this year's Emerald City Comic-Con. And Garrison Titan, which is the garrison of the 501st that he belongs to, does charity work, and they do a Star Wars, like a photo op thing at the Emerald City Comic Con, when you pay like $5 or something, and you get to take pictures with the land speeder and Priscilla, Queen of the Glacier. And if you're a Patreon of mine, if you subscribe to my Patreon, I have been dropping these quick. There have been 3 build update videos about Priscilla. They're just short, but they're patron only for the first 2 weeks, and then I'll put them on YouTube so everybody can see. But Greg is he's great, and you should always support anything he does because he's awesome. Let's see. Walter White Walker says, what up, Rob? Misfits of Science, Manimal, V, and Brimstone. Great shows before their time. Yeah, I don't know about those. Manimal. V. I like the miniseries. I have the miniseries, the Japanese box set of both V miniseries on Laserdisc. Let's see. Nerfherder21 says, remember that terrible film, Movie 43? How did they get all of those amazing actors? Man, Movie 43, I don't know, but yeah, that's not a great movie. Not a great movie. Let's see. As I get down here. Mark C. He again, can we expect a 40th Blu-ray of the motion picture director's cut? Write Jim Giannopoulos. Everybody should write Jim Giannopoulos at Paramount. As a matter of fact, call him right now if you know Jim Giannopoulos and tell him I sent you. Let's see. Get down. I got to wrap this up soon. Clayton George asks, Rob, are you at all into the Addams family? If so, do you wish that some figure company would go ahead and do figure series of the family that does them justice instead of some horrible Funkos? Yeah, I like the Addams family, and they should, both the movies and the original TV series. That would be cool. I like the Addams family. Yes, so I'm all about that. Look, I'm all about any figure that is made that's awesome. The company 1/12th, it's Mezco's company. They do. I've never bought a 1/12 figure. They're like 6-inch figures, but they just put out a 2-pack from Dawn of the Dead that I have to get. It's got Flyboy Steven as a zombie when the gun is dangling from his finger, and the helicopter zombie. I got to get that. But anybody who makes good figures, I'm a fan of. So yes, I'm in. I would do that. Let's see. Adult for Cash says, also haven't seen Lawrence of Arabia, though I've been planning to. Just saw that it's re-releasing in theaters later this year. Well, then wait and see it on a big screen. I didn't know that, but yes, go see Lawrence. You got to see Lawrence of Arabia is one of the greatest movies ever made. You got to watch it. Topher Rock says, I missed his super chat. Did I? I thought I saw it. I did. Didn't I? Did I miss your super chat? Hang on. Let me go back. And if I did, I apologize. I thought I did. Topher Rocks. Oh, well, yeah, I did. I guess I missed this question of yours. Yes, talked about Quentin Tarantino, Topher, unless you sent me another one. By the way, I appreciate that. And Topher, do you mean like Topher Grace Rocks? Because he does. Let's see. I'm going to answer just a few more questions and then I have to go. Let's see. The King of Scotland says, I'm just afraid that Dune is too high a concept for many of the YouTube hype channels out there. So they won't promote it over promoting the latest fill-in-the-blank Marvel film. Well, I think you're right. Look, the thing about Dune is it's a very heady book. Like any big science fiction novel, it's got really big ideas, and a lot of people misread what the book is actually about. There's that ridiculous article that came out about Dune being the ultimate savior whitey book, which is a complete misreading of that book. It's like the person saw the movie and never read the book and didn't get it. Sebastian says, when I was just about to read what Sebastian had said, it jumped. Sebastian asked if I'd seen the Anthem, the new Neil Blomkamp short. I have not watched that yet, but I'm going to watch that. I like his shorts. Brandon says the marketing for Blade Runner 2049 was terrible. It was terrible. I thought it was terrible. I think that's why it failed. That was part of it. I mean, the key art was horrific. Terrible. That was the worst marketing ever. It's like nobody wants to actually market anything. Yellow Flash says, Rob, in the post-credit scene in Guardians Volume 2, Groot seems older and taller than how he appears in Infinity War. His voice is even different, too. That could be. Maybe he's just depressed that day. I don't know. But you might be right about that. There's, Thanos looks a little different in Guardians 1 than he looks in the final movie. Even the hot toy of Thanos is shorter than the hot toy of Thanos they're putting out, that's coming out. Chris Miller says, thanks for the super chat, Chris. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to bless us with your presence. Well, I'm glad you feel that way because there's a lot of people that are like, shut this guy up. Who is he to be here and talking all the time? So I appreciate that. Look, it's fun to talk to you guys. I like interacting, and there's been nothing more fun than getting all the comments that you send and people who follow me on Twitter and send it, because that's what this is all about. Like, it wouldn't be fun if you guys weren't here. So why don't I'm going to end it with that. Thank you for Chris Miller to say that. Thank you very much. And I will say to all of you members of the Post Geek Singularity community, I want to thank you all for being here. I want to thank you for supporting me wherever you're supporting me, even if you're just putting your name on my website. Go to theburnetwork.net. I'm putting more. I'm about to drop the 4th in a series of my Axanar feature film documentaries, which, by the way, can I just say that my feature film documentaries on Axanar are open sourced, and the people that are involved with Axanar right now should really just download them and put them up the way they are instead of recutting them and not saying who was involved in making that stuff or putting it out. It's unprofessional in the extreme. But anyway, that's just me. So I'm going to be dropping another one of those. They're exclusively on my website, theburnetwork.net. You can find those. There's about 50 minutes minutes of documentary material that covers the special effects that will never be seen except in what I have done and released. Anyway, so check that out. Visit my website. So I'm going to end this for the day, and I want to thank you guys for being here. I will be back tomorrow. And by the way, I'm going to start taking suggestions for long form deep dives. And my Wirecast software, I'm learning it. I've got my switcher now, and these chats are going to be they're going to be through the roof compared to these little ramshackle chats. I'm gonna change it around, change it up, make it better for you guys. Oh, somebody just sent in a super chat question. Not a question. Mike Duffy just sent me a super chat. Mike, dude, you know what? Here's to you, Mike. Thank you for the support. I appreciate it. But I want to start doing viewer suggestions. So if you've got a movie you want me to talk about, a geek topic that I should discuss, what I want to be able to do is do some research into that topic. If it's something I don't know off the top of my head, I don't know everything off the top of my head, and we'll do deep dives, and I'm gonna be able to start having graphics and things. This Wirecast software and this Wirecast, I basically have this deck that John Campia hooked me up with it. Showed me all how to do it. It's basically having a TV studio on your desk, and you use Wirecast as the software you use, and it's great. So I'm going to do a lot more with this channel because of you guys and the support, because it's terrific. What I want to do is put all these super chats and things back into the channel and all the support you give me to make things better. And I will bring back my giveaways. It's been crazy this past week. So anyway, I'm going to sign off now. And remember, for those of you who are here, every person you meet has a story to tell that you haven't heard yet. All you have to do is listen. Thanks everybody for being here. Have a good rest of your Saturday, and everybody go see The Wandering Earth and hit me back and tell me if it's good. And if you don't see The Wandering Earth, see Battle Angel Alita, because that movie needs support as well. So thanks everybody, and I will be back tomorrow, probably again at high noon.